guys, welcome back. We're going to do another read with me. We're going to read some more of the Bible. Except for today, I have my Rainbow Bible, Christian Standard Bible. I absolutely love this Bible. It has little color-coded notes at the bottom that tell you what they are, where to find them, what they mean, stuff like that. So we have been reading about Noah. Yesterday we read that he went into the ark. So today we're going to read about God's covenant with Noah, and I'm going to read more than 2 chapters today. I'm just going to read a little bit, I guess, maybe until I feel like I should stop. So we're going to start. So we are in chapter 9, and we're reading about God's covenant with Noah. So it says, God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. The fear and terror of you will be in every living creature on the earth, every bird of the sky, every creature that crawls on the ground, and all the fish of the sea. They are placed under your authority. Every creature that lives and moves will be food for you. As I gave the green plants, I have given you everything. However, you must not eat meat with its lifeblood in it, and I will require a penalty for your lifeblood. I will require it from any animal and from any human. If someone murders a fellow human, I will require that person's life. Whoever sheds blood, human blood, by humans his blood will be shed. And for God made humans in his image. That's because you're not supposed to kill anybody. But you, be fruitful and multiply, spread over the earth and multiply on it. Then God said to Noah and his sons with him, understand that I am establishing... Oh, my phone's going off. I have no idea who that is. Startled me a little bit because my watch was over there buzzing too. Okay. Then God said to Noah and his sons with him, understand that I am establishing my covenant with you and your descendants after you, and with every living creature that is with you, birds, livestock, and all wildlife of the earth that are with you. All the animals of the earth that came out of the ark, I establish my covenant with you, that never again will every creature be wiped out by flood waters. That's right, because this time it's going to be a lake of fire. There will never again be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, this is the sign of my covenant. I am making between me and you and every living creature with you a covenant for all future generations. I have placed my bow in the clouds. Talking about the rainbow. That's why we see a rainbow from time to time, because it reminds him that even though this world is so bad, that he's never going to wipe it away with a flood again. I have placed my bow in the clouds, and it will be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Whenever I form clouds over the earth and the bow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between you and me and all the living creatures. Water will never again become a flood to destroy every creature. The bow will be in the clouds, and I will look at it and remember the permanent covenant between God and all the living creatures on earth. God said to Noah, this is the sign of the covenant that I have established between me and every creature on earth. Prophecies about Noah's family. Sorry, I have the sniffles. All of my kids have been congested. I've been congested. It's just crazy. Noah's sons who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. These 3 were Noah's sons, and from them the whole earth was populated. Noah, as a man of the soil, began by planting a vineyard. He drank some of the wine, became drunk, and uncovered himself inside his tent. So he got naked. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father naked and told his 2 brothers outside. Then Shem and Japheth took a cloak and placed it over both their shoulders, and walking backward they covered their father's nakedness. Their faces were turned away, and they did not see their father naked. When Noah awoke from his drinking and learned what his youngest son had done to him, he said, Canaan is cursed. That's because you're not supposed to see your parents naked. He will be the lowest of slaves to his brothers. He also said, blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem. Let Canaan be Shem's slave. Let God extend Japheth. Let Japheth dwell in the tents of Shem. Let Canaan be Shem's slave. Now Noah lived 350 years after the flood. So Noah's life lasted 950 years. Then he died. The Table of Nations, chapter 10. These are the family records of Noah's that was a tongue tie there, of Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. They also had sons after the flood. Japheth's sons were, and excuse me if I say any of these names wrong, like I said, I don't know how to really pronounce them. Never been taught how to pronounce them, and I didn't live thousands of years ago in the Middle East. Japheth's sons, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tyrus. Gomer's sons, Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. And Javan's sons, Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodan. Elisha is different from Elijah. That's why it's spelled with a S, not a J. So, in case you guys are wondering what I meant by that name, or that name exactly. From these descendants, the people from the coast and the islands spread out into their lands according to their clans and their nations, each with its own language. Ham's sons, Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Cush's sons, Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, and Sabteka. And Rama's sons, Sheba and Dedan. Cush fathered Nimrod, who began to be powerful in the land. He was a powerful hunter in the sight of the Lord. That is why it is said, like Nimrod, a powerful hunter in the sight of the Lord. His kingdom started with Babylon, Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. From the land he went to Assyria and built Nevaeh, and Rehoboth-Kala, and Rezin between Nevaeh and the great city Kala. Mizraim fathered the people of Lud, Anam, Lahab, Nephthah, Pathros, Kazlah. The Palestinians came from them, and Caphtor. Canaan fathered Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, as well as the Jebusites, the Amorites, and the Girgashites, and the Hivites, and the Arkites, and Sinites, and the Arvadites, and the Zemarites, and the Hamathites. Afterward, the Canaanite clans scattered. The Canaanite border went from Sidon, going toward Gerar, and as far as Gaza, and going toward Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and as far as Lasha. These are Ham's sons by their clans, according to their languages and their lands and their nations. And Shem, Japheth's older brother, also had sons. Shem was the father of all the sons of Eber. Shem's sons were Elam, Asher, Arpachshad, Lud, and Aram. Aram's sons, Uz, Hul, Gether, and Mash. Arpachshad fathered Shelah, and Shelah fathered Eber. Eber had two sons. One was named Peleg, for during his days that the earth was divided. His brother was named Joktan, and Joktan fathered Almadad, Shelah, Maveth, Jerah, Hadoram, Uzal, Diklah, Obal, Abimael, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jabab. These were Joktan's sons. These names in the Bible times, I can't even. They're so hard to pronounce and read. Their settlements extended from Mesha to Sephar, the eastern hill country. These are Shem's sons by their clans, according to their languages and their lands and their nations. These are the clans of Noah's sons, according to their family records and their nations. The nations on earth spread out from these after the flood. Chapter 11, the Tower of Babylon. This is where they build the tower to reach heaven, and then God is like, they think that they can, and then comes down, and this is the reason why we have so many different languages today, because he confused the people, gave people many different languages, and spread them out. So it made it hard for people to understand each other for this reason. The Tower of Babylon. The whole earth had the same language and vocabulary. As people migrated from the east, they found a valley in the land of Shinar and settled there. They said to each other, which makes sense that they only had one language, because God did wipe out the whole entire earth, and then it was just Noah and his sons and their wives, and of course they know how to speak to each other. And then all the descendants came from Noah when the ark opened and settled there. They said to each other, "Come, let us make oven-fired bricks." They used a brick for stone and asphalt for mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the sky. Let us make a name for ourselves, otherwise we will be scattered throughout the earth." Then the Lord came down to look over the city and the tower that the humans were building. The Lord said, if they have begun to do this as one people, all having the same language, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Come, let's go down there and confuse their language. Again, is back to Genesis when he's making Adam. He said, let's make Adam and Eve in our image. And then it says, come, let's go down there. So it could be him and the angels, or him and whoever knows what God has up there, because God's quite mysterious. Come, let's go down there and confuse their language, so they will not understand one another's speech. So from there the Lord scattered them throughout the earth, and they stopped building the city. Therefore it is called Babylon, for there the Lord confused the language where the whole earth, and from there the Lord scattered them throughout the earth. From Shem to Abraham. These are the family records of Shem. Once again, we're getting into a whole bunch of names that I really don't know how to say. These aren't particular my favorite chapters to read in the Bible, but once we get more in depth in the Bible, it definitely gets easier. These are the family records of Shem. Shem lived 100 years after Arpachshad, 2 years after the flood. After he fathered Arpachshad, Shem lived 500 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Arpachshad lived 35 years and fathered Selah. After he fathered Selah, Arpachshad lived 403 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Shelah lived 30 years and fathered Eber. After he fathered Eber, Shelah lived 403 years, and fathered other sons and daughters. Eber lived 34 years and fathered Peleg. After he fathered Peleg, Eber lived 430 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Peleg lived 30 years and fathered Reu. After he fathered Reu, Peleg lived 209 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Reu lived 32 years and fathered Serug. After he fathered Serug, Reu lived 207 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Serug lived 30 years and fathered Nahor. After he fathered Nahor, Serug lived 200 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Nahor lived 29 years and fathered Terah. After he fathered Terah, Nahor lived 119 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Terah lived 70 years and fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran. These are the family records of Terah. Terah fathered Abraham, Nahor, Abram, he's not Abraham yet, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran fathered Lot. Haran died in his native land in Ur of the Chaldeans during his father Terah's lifetime. Abraham and Nahor took wives. Abraham's wife was Sarai, and Nahor's wife was named Milcah. She was the daughter of Haran and the father of both Milcah and Iscah. Sarai was unable to conceive. She did not have a child. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, Haran's son, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son Abram's wife, and they set out together from Ur to the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. But they came to Haran. They settled there. Terah lived 205 years and died in Haran. So before we go into chapter 12, because that's the end of 11, kind of read that fast. So Abram is married to Sarai. Sarai cannot have children. Later in the Bible, God comes down, blesses Sarai with a baby, and she's going to have a baby. But first, she's going to give her handmaid, and she's going to have a baby with Abram. And then she's going to get all jealous. And it's just drama. She should have never did that, in my opinion. But there's a reason why it was done that way. And the reason why people are like, why do I have to read all these names in the Bible? And, you know, the life tree of life, or whatever you want to call it, the line of descendants. It's because these people, even though it's a hard chapter to read because a lot of people can't pronounce the names, it's important because this is Jesus's family line, and all of this works its way down to him. You know, it leads down to blah, 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 I had Jacob, blah, 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 I had Mary, you know, and Jacob got engaged, Mary was pregnant. Like, there's a reason for it. So 12, the call of Abram, and also Abram and Sarai's story isn't my favorite because I feel like it's disgusting. And I'm not trying to diss the Bible because I do believe in God, but they were like relatives, and then they had a baby, you know, and I understand you need to repopulate the earth, but I do believe in God. So obviously there's a reason why this happened this way, and it's not my place to judge what they did. It's just not my favorite stories. Reading about incest and stuff like that just aren't my favorite biblical stories. Like, I like, the stories about David and King Solomon and Paul and, reading the New Testament. The New Testament is my favorite part of the Bible. So, chapter 12, the call of Abram. The Lord said to Abram, "Go out from your land, your relatives, and your father's house to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse anyone who treats you with contempt, and all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all the possessions they had accumulated and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. When they came to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the site of Shechem at the oak of Moreh. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there he moved on to the hill country east of Bethel, pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. He built an altar to the Lord there, and he called on the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed by stages to the Negev. Abram in Egypt. There was a famine in the land, so Abraham... I keep calling him by his name that got changed. It's not his name yet. Calm down, Amber. Abram went down to Egypt and stay there for a while because the famine in the land was severe. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, "Look, I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say this is his wife." Which is true. She is his wife. So technically he's not about to lie here. But she's also, before she was his wife, was also a family member to him. Okay. "They will kill me but let you live. Please say you are my sister, so it will go well for me because of you, and my life will be spared on your account." When Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her to Pharaoh. So the woman was taken to Pharaoh's household. He treated Abram well because of her, and Abram acquired flocks and herds, male and female donkeys, male and female slaves, and camels. But the Lord struck Pharaoh and his household with severe plagues because Abram's wife Sarai. So he should have just been honest. So Pharaoh sent for Abram and said, "What have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she's my sister, so I took her as my wife? Now here is your wife. Take her and go." Then Pharaoh gave his men orders about him and sent him away with his wife and all that he had. Abram and Lot separate. Lot is Abram's nephew. Abram went from Egypt to Negev, he, his wife, and all he had, and Lot with him. Abram was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. He went by stages from the Negev to Bethel, to the place between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had formerly been, to the site where he had built an altar. And Abram called on the name of the Lord there. Now Lot, who was traveling with Abram, also had flocks, herds, and tents. The land was unable to support them as they stayed together, for they had so many possessions that they could not stay together. And there was quarreling between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. At that time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were living in the land. So they were kind of arguing. There was arguments. So Abram said to Lot, "Please, let's not have quarreling between you and me, and between our herdsmen and between my herdsmen, since we are relatives. Isn't the whole land before you? Separate from me. If you go left, I will go right. If you go right, I will go left." Lot looked out and saw that the entire plain of the Jordan, as far as Zoar, was well watered everywhere, like the Lord's garden and the land of Egypt. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose the entire plain of the Jordan for himself. Then Lot journeyed eastward, and they separated from each other. Abram lived in the land of Canaan, and Lot lived in the cities on the plain, and set up his tent near Sodom. Now Sodom and Gomorrah is a place full of incest, idolatry, homosexuals, and they're about to get burned down. Now the men of Sodom were evil, sinning immensely against the Lord. After Lot had separated from him, the Lord said to Abram, "Look for the place where you are. Look north, south, east, and west, for I will give you and your offspring forever all the land that you see. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust of the earth, then your offspring could be counted. Get up and walk around the land through its length and width, for I will give it to you." So Abram moved his tent and went to live near the oaks of Mamre at Hebron. He built an altar to the Lord. So we're going to stop after we read chapter 14, because now we're on 14. Abram rescues Lot. In those days, King Amraphel of Shinar, King Arioch of Elasar, King of Chedorlaomer of Elam, the king of Tidal of Goim, waged war against the king of Bera of Sodom, King Bersha of Gomorrah, King Shinab of Admah, and King Shemember of Zeboim, as well as the king of Bela, that is Zoar. All of these came as allies to the Siddim Valley, that is the Dead Sea. They were subjected to Chedorlaomer for 12 years, but the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings who went with him came and defeated the Rephaim and Ashtaroth Karnaim and Zuzim and Ham, the Emim and Sheva Kiriathaim, and they... It's so hard to read this because I don't know the correct way to pronounce these names. Horites, and the mountains of Seor, as far as El Paran by the wilderness. Then they came back to invade in Mishpat, that is Kadesh, and they defeated the whole territory of the Amalekites, as well as the Amorites who lived in Hazazon Tamar. The king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, the king of Bela, that is Zoar, went out and lined up for battle in the Siddim Valley against King Chedorlaomer of Elam, king of Tidal of Goim, King Amraphel of Shinar, and King Arioch of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Now the Siddim Valley contained many asphalt pits. As the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some fell into them, but the rest fled to the mountains. The 4 kings took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all the food and went on. They also took Abram's nephew Lot and his possessions, for he was living in Sodom, and they went on. One of the survivors came and told Abram, the Hebrew, who lived near the oaks belonging to Mamre the Amorite, and the brother of Eshcol, and the brother of Honor. They were bound by treaty with Abram, and Abram heard that his relative had been taken prisoner. He assembled his 318 trained men born in his household, and they went in pursuit as far as Dan. And he and his servants deployed against them by night, defeated them, and pursued them as far as Hobah to the north of Damascus. He brought back all the goods, and also his relative Lot and his goods, as well as women and other people. Man, who decided to name their children these names? Melchizedek's blessing. After Abram returned from defeating Chedorlaomer, the kings who were with him and the king of Sodom went out to meet him in the Sheva Valley, that is the King's Valley. Why not just call it the King's Valley? Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest to the God Most High. He blessed him and said, "Abram is blessed by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has handed over your enemies to you." And Abram gave 1/10 of everything. Then the king of Sodom said to Abram, "Give me the people, but take the possessions for yourself." But Abram said to the king of Sodom, "I have raised my hand in an oath to the Lord God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, that I will not take a thread or a sandal strap or anything that belongs to you, so that you can never say, 'I made Abram rich.' I will take nothing except for the servants that eaten. But as for the share of men who came with me, Honor, Eshcol, Mamre, they can take their share." And we're going to go ahead and read 15, even though I said that we were going to stop. because it's just a really short chapter. It's literally 17 lines. The Abrahamic covenant. After these events, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward will be very great. But Abram said, Lord God, what can you give me, since I am childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus? Abram continued, Look, you have given me no offspring, so a slave born of my house will be my heir. Now the word of the Lord came to him. This one will not be your heir. Instead, one who comes from your own body will be your heir. He took him outside and said, Look at the sky and count the stars. If you are able to count them, then he said to himself, Your offspring will be that numerous. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. He also said to him, I am the Lord who brought you from Ur and the Chaldeans to give you the land to possess. But he said, Lord God, how can I know that I will possess it? He said to him, Bring me a 3-year-old cow and a 3-year-old female goat and a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. So he brought all these to him, cut them in half, and laid the pieces opposite each other, and he did not cut the birds in half. Birds of prey came down on the carcasses, but Abram drove them away. As the sun was setting, a deep sleep came over Abram, and suddenly great terror, darkness descended on him. The Lord said to Abram, Know this for certain, your offspring will be resident aliens for 400 years in a land that does not belong to them, and will be enslaved and oppressed. Talking about the Egyptians. However, and we're going to read about that, how Pharaoh wouldn't let his people go and all of that. However, I will judge the nation they serve, and afterward they will go out with many possessions. But you will go to your fathers in peace and be buried at a good old age. In the 4th generation they will return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. When the sun had set, and it was a dark, smoking fire pot, and a flaming torch appeared and passed between the divided animals. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, I give this land to your offspring, from the brook of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates River, the land of the Kenizzites, and Cadmonites, Hetherites, Perizzites, Rephaim, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites. All these people that end in the same ites just makes it hard to read, even though it's important to know. Okay, so guys, now we are on chapter 16. We're going to probably read 16 is a pretty short chapter too. 16, 17. Okay, these chapters are pretty short. We might read a few more than just 2 tomorrow too, because they look like they're pretty short chapters, and we're going to get into Pharaoh, the plagues, Pharaoh, not wanting to let his people go, Sarai having a baby, their name change, she's giving, Abram, who's going to turn into Abraham, her handmaid to have a baby, too. Sarai and Abraham's story isn't really my favorite, but I do like the story of Leah and Rachel and Jacob, though. I think it's a love story, even though, where did my pen go? I'm trying to find it. It's a really good love story, because he loves her so much that he worked for her, and I'm not going to give the story away for those who haven't read it, but we'll read it. And then he turns around and has to work another 7 more years because something happened, but that is literally one of my favorite stories in the Bible. I think it's beautiful. I really like the book of Revelations because it tells you what's going to happen during the end times. It tells you everything you need to know. I really like reading about Jesus and his healings, which is part of the New Testament books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I really like to start off with the New Testament when I read the Bible, because it tells you what's happening or what's going to happen here in the near future, and then you go back and you can read the old history from the Old Testament, and you know more because you've already read the end of the Bible, which is the New Testament. So it makes more sense reading it that way, because if you just read it through, sometimes they mention things in the Old Testament and it's like, what is that? And then if you start in the Old Testament and then read the New Testament, if you start in the New Testament then read the Old Testament, it clicks. So you're like, oh, okay, that's what they mean. That's who they mean. That's who they're talking about. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Sorry for my commentary. I just felt like I needed to express that I couldn't say these names correctly. Sorry, my nose is like really itchy today. And all kinds of things. So enjoy, and we will be back tomorrow to read a few more chapters.